In this video, you will learn about Lave and Etienne Wenger's theory of situated learning, what it is, why it matters, and how it applies to real-life learning experiences. My name is Althea Marie Fahunio, and let's get started. After explaining the topic, you can conclude with that's a quick look at situated learning by Lave and Etienne Wenger. I'm Althea Marie Fahunio. Objectives: define Lave's situated learning. Implement the ways instructors can design situated learning in the classroom. Lastly, attain the key features of situated learning. So before we start our discussion, let us first ponder upon these following questions. So basing on your prior knowledge, what do you think is situated learning? When do you think situated learning occur? Is it inside of the classroom where the students are only listening to the lecture, or the situated learning occurs in the functions of activity where students will be challenged? So yes, I think you already get the idea. And lastly, how does learning differ from traditional learning as we go along with this lesson? The answer to these questions will get clearer. Lave situated learning first presented by Lave and Etienne Wenger in 1991. Situated learning explains the development of learning where individuals have the opportunity to participate in a community of practice. Community of practice is a group of people who share a common concern or an interest in a topic. In situated learning is unintentional. Unintentional learning usually aren't offered in a classroom, but they are learned from observing and trying it on their own. So this unintentional nature of learning is what the author called legitimate, peripheral, or of participation, or LPP. In LPP, the learner moves from the periphery of the community to the center as he or she gains expertise and engages and participate actively in the social cultural practices of the community. There are four key features of situated learning. Number one, it is based on social cultural theory. Situated learning theory embraces a social cultural view of learning. It sees knowledge as being defined and agreed upon by a society or a community, whereby development occurs through interactions with people who possess more knowledge or skill than the learner. Number two, learning should take place in communities of practice. The only way to learn is from other people because knowledge is socially co-constructed by a community. You can learn what information is important to society and how society views certain topics by talking to and listening to other people. Lave and Wenger'S says that there are some communities of practice who all share the same knowledge. The typical community of practice is a group of professionals who share a craft. Number three, learners start out as a legitimate peripheral participants. Lave and Wenger argue that an apprenticeship model should be used for learning, with students immersed in a real-world situations to observe and learn from practitioners. LPP describes how newcomers become experienced members and eventually Alzheimer's community of practice or collaborative projects upon. Number four, learners slowly become full members of the community of practice. For moving from peripheral to full participation, each community of practice has its own set of rules or structures. The mentor exercises control over gradual transfer of responsibility to the apprentice in a conventional relationship. The mentor decides how much participation is required and how quickly progress is made. Progress can be organized in more formal setting through formal testing accumulation of time, such as the number of practice hours or age. Now, let us compare the traditional learning and situated learning Traditional learning occurs from abstract, out of context experiences such as lectures and books. Situated learning, on the other hand, suggests that learning takes place through the relationships between people and connecting prior knowledge with authentic and formal and often unintended contextual learning. In this situation, a student's role changes from being a beginner to an expert as they become more active and immersed in a social community where learning often is unintentional rather than deliberate. Therefore, the social community matures and learns through collaboration and sharing of purposeful patterned activity. Situated learning essentially is a matter of creating meaning from real activities of daily living. One of the examples are field trips, where students actively participate in an unfamiliar environment. Music and sports are physical education, which practices replicate actual setting of these events. Example are castres, studios training facilities. Number 3, cooperative education and internships, which students are immersed and physically active in an actual work environment. And laboratories in childcares. They use a classroom in which students are involved in activities which replicate actual work setting. So this example illustrates that students are actively involved in addressing real-world problems, as the practice implies that student is situated in the learning experiences. At knowledge acquisition becomes a part of learning activity, its context and its culture in which it is developed and used. Students form or construct their own knowledge from experiences they bring to learn situation. Situation success of situated learning experiences relies on social interaction. The kinesthetic activity, Time 1998, citing Young further clarifies ways instructors can design situated learning in the classroom. Number 1, select situations that will engage the learners in complex, realistic, problem-centered activities that will support the desired knowledge to be acquired. Number 2, provide the scaffold for new learners, knowing the type and intensity of guidance necessary to help learners master the situations. As learners acquire traditional skills, less support will be needed. Number 3, recast your role from quantum transmitter to facilitator of learning by tracking progress, assessing products produced by learners, building collaborative learning environments. Encouraging reflection and helping learners become more aware of contextual cues to aid understanding and transference. Number 4, assess the intellectual growth of the individual and community of learners through discussion, reflection, evaluation, and validation of community's perspective. Summary of situated learning. Environments place students in authentic learning situations where they can actively immersed in an activity while using problem solving or critical thinking. Skills there This opportunity should involve a social community where replicates real-world situations. In the end, that situated learning experiences should encourage students to top their prior knowledge and to challenge others in their community. So that is all for today's discussion. Thank you so much for listening.